everybody. Thanks, Jakub. Always a pleasure for me too. And let's take it away. So let's start, dear Julio. I would say let's do following. Just say a couple of words about yourself, and then I start to do a little bit of introduction while people come in.
Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. I'm Julio Lopez. I come from Venezuela. I'm a full stack web developer with a background in electronic engineering. That's what I study. I have worked as a web developer for the past 3 years, mainly in Chile. And I will say that I have a passion for learning. I like learning something new every day. And well, I think that goes well with this field because it moves like really fast. You need to be up to date. And well, again, thank you very much for being here today.
You're very much welcome. Thank you for joining. So my name is Alessandro. I'm a career specialist at CareerFoundry. And the first disclaimer I have to do today is that we have kind of a problem. We have a student that already got 3 jobs offers. So we're going to run the interview, and you're going to see that it's slightly different vibe than usual because we have somebody who recently got offers and a lot. So congratulations to Julio from my side, of course. And the second disclaimer that I always do is more or less how this show goes. We're gonna ask Julio a couple of questions about the parts of the interviews that he already had and he found quite tricky. So he is in the process of reviewing what happened and was successful. I think that you should see it from this perspective. And we're gonna use the same technique as usual. So we're gonna poll with you live, guys, and ask you, how did you perceive the answer of Julio? And then we're going to go into reflection and try to find out what's really helpful for him to design his job search ahead after the roles he's going to take, and maybe for the future or for the current job, if applicable. So we're ready to start. Let's have a look at the chat. People are coming in still, but let's slowly move into a short description of the company we are going to apply to. So we're not going to make any names, but we are full in tech. Julio is applying for a web development position at one mid-sized tech company in Berlin in the education sector. It's not CareerFoundry. So the company really exists, and there was this process already. So that's something that we talk about now in the fiction, but it actually happened. And again, the coordinates for you to understand the interview is web dev, Berlin, education tech. These 3 things are important to frame a little bit what's going to be said. I'm the recruiter, as usual, or hiring manager, whatever. And I think we start with the first question, right?
Perfect. Let's get started.
Okay, so I'm thrilled to have you here. Thank you, Julio, for your CV and for your application. I know already where you come from, more or less, and why you want to do it. I have a question for you, and I really want you to be as honest as possible with me. What are the reasons that you want to join us? What are the advantages of joining our company?
Yeah. Well, the advantages, I could say some of them. The first one, I would say the technologies that you're using. You are working with React, with Ruby on Rails, which are the technologies that I feel comfortable with, even though I'm always open-minded to work with new technologies or with other technologies. I feel comfortable using this technologies, and of course it will be nice if in the future I can master them. Another reason is that I saw that you pride itself as a company, as a team-oriented company, and I consider myself a team worker. I think in a team there should be like always, it's always important to give and to receive feedback. Right? I mean, I think that's the key of success of a team. And another reason, I think, is your product. You have a learning platform, and I think that is priceless to work in a product that you know is gonna help thousands of people.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. I have a follow-up question for you. So I buy the three things that you said, but I would ask you, what would be the disadvantages of joining our company?
Well, okay, disadvantages. So far, like in the offer, I didn't see anything. And well, clearly I have not worked there, so I don't have any. But I think we can come back to this question maybe 2 months later when I have work already there. And yeah, I can maybe answer that for you.
Okay, thanks. So let's give it a break now here. First, thanks for the answers and for entering a little bit the first part of the role game with me. We follow the tradition of polling. So if you guys are ready, you're going to receive a poll right now, and you can share with us what is your overall perception of the answers that Julio gave. Joseph is already giving you a clever in the chat, and please share your feedback, share your impression in the chat. We try to interact with you as much as possible. But let's go back to Julio now. So before we have a look at the polls, what is your reflection on the answers and on the questions as well that we listen now?
Yeah, I mean with the advantages, let's say that was kind of easy because it's kind of the job that I was looking for. Is kind of the technology that I like, so it was kind of easy to come with that answer. But the tricky one was the one with the disadvantages. And yeah, the idea with that, what I thought was like to cause an impact there, saying that about, well, when I'm working there, I will let you know. Also because it's also kind of honest to say, because I mean, how could I know a disadvantage if I'm not working there?
Okay. Do you think now in retrospective you are happy with the second answer? So with the answer about the disadvantages of working here?
Yeah, I gave it a thought to that answer, and I haven't come up with something better than that.
Okay, that's a great starting point.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer.
Okay, let's keep it like this for the moment and see if there is any inspiration for you, or if you can even keep it like this. I have to say, from the recruiter perspective, is a quite strange question. I wouldn't reckon with it, honestly, but you can't reckon with anything in hiring processes, so we have to face it. And let's have a short look at the polls. Let's have a short look at them. And wow, that's impressive. I don't know if people are still polling and voting, but it's the first time I have 0% on it. It could be much better. So there is nobody in the room, at least, that says that that's absolutely a catastrophe. Sometimes there is one or two people. Could do better is 33%, and excellent, no comment, 76%. Sorry, 67%. So I would say that you convinced most of the audience. And let's have a look at the chat. Is there anything that resonates with you? No, because there is only hello, 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 hi. Hi from India, I'm from Canada. So there's no feedback that can resonate with you. So people, if you want to interact with us, last call for your perception on these two iterations, or the first iteration with Julio. Not necessary, but if you want to share your thoughts, please feel welcome. And I want to challenge you on one thing. I think that answer number one, I would buy the most the third part, so the product. It's really related to the mission of the company, and I think you could enlarge that. And it's very, very hard to resist from a recruiter or hiring manager perspective. So if you have a very good reason for that, probably it's going to be the only point. But this is not my challenge. This is only a remark on the side. There is something of the second question that it's kind of bugging me personally.
Okay.
I have the feeling that if you answer like this, probably they are okay with it, but it feels like you want to avoid the question. So it's polite. It's diplomatic what you say, it's honest, but I don't doubt that you really mean it. But in the end, that doesn't actually answer the question. So what could be the disadvantages of working here? And at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, and we spoke about it a couple of days ago, I'm trying to figure out what could be the intention behind this question. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I don't have any idea about the intention of that question. Maybe to see if I did some research somewhere and look at maybe negative comments or something.
Yeah. So what if we assume that instead of saying disadvantages, we use the word risks? Would it change the answer? So if I ask you what would be the risks of working here for you personally, what would you say? Let's not make the role game again, but just be honest between you and I. What would be your answer there?
Wow, risks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that will be the same answer. Just for the fact that, I mean, I don't see any risks of working there, because in the first place, if I see a risk, I won't be maybe applying if it was maybe a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay.
That's a tricky one.
I'm trying to interpret the intention of the recruiter. So in this very case, in this very live interview, we are working on questions that have been actually asked. So it's quite close to reality what we are doing in terms of content. And I'm trying to figure out what could be the intention of somebody on the recruiter side asking what are the disadvantages of working here. I'm thinking that probably they refer to the risks. If it's so, then you might have a further opportunity rather than being diplomatic, which is fully okay. You just said, you know what, I don't have visibility. I'm going to tell you in 2 months from now if you hire me. So it's a smart answer. I do buy that. Personally, I wouldn't ask that question. So, but I would like to point out that maybe if you find out or if you sense that the real intention is to uncover risks, then probably is an invitation to share your fear about making that career move, whatever the fears could be. And if there are no fears, then I will address that. So I'm imagining a situation where the recruiter goes like, okay, what are the disadvantages of working here? And you say, instead of following that word, you would say, you know what, I don't have the visibility about the risks. It looks like a clear opportunity. For sure, there are things that I didn't see yet, but I can't tell you where this relationship could fail. And I think this is closer to the potential intention of them, is to see, are we talking at the same eye level about the risk of this relationship? It's like putting the cards on the table and say, what are your fears? Let's address them. So if you think that could be, or you all in the public, in the audience, if you think that could be the intention of the recruiter, then probably you might address that. Julio froze. Let him come back. Let's give him the time to come back. In the meanwhile, I've seen a comment in the chat. I think they wanted to know how you think and process the information, and how will you react. The question would be, what process or what information you need to process?
Hello.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
I was trying to address some comment in the chat, so no worries. Where did you lose me?
Yeah, you were trying to talk about the risks that could be, like, what could they be, what could be their intention.
Okay, yeah. So long story short, I would challenge you for the next interviews in 25 years to try to uncover by your answer or by entering the dialogue with them to see if the risks are the real intention of the question. Or I think this is a good point. Let's take it from Mioxa. Maybe the recruiter wants to know how much confidence the candidate has. That could be a
that could be a point.
Could be a point. So if this is the point, then how do you value your answer?
I still think it's good.
Yeah, I think so, because then they kind of trick themselves with the question. So if any recruiter is listening here, don't ask that question. I don't think it's useful. I think we went as deep as possible there, and I think we can switch the topic. All right. Julio, any final reflection on this opening question?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So please correct me if I'm wrong, because I have some notes, but I don't remember if we go in the same chronology. I think the second question we want to shed light upon is, how do you manage stressful situations? So I enter now the role of the recruiter again. Let me play a little bit the role, because then I can put in some more detail. So Julio, thank you very much for the previous answer. I'll take it with me. How do you manage stress situations? I'm very curious about this. And I'm referring in particular to situations where the amount of task is not proportional to the amount of time. So you have very tight deadlines and potentially your task stack is increasing. Can you give me some insights about that?
Yeah, of course. I think the key here is to prioritize the tasks. Like I usually work with a tool like a Kanban board, Trello, where I organize my tasks and I put some value to have some priority. And based on that, like work in the very urgent ones. The other ones that I cannot do, or I have not the time to deliver, I will schedule a meeting with the responsibles and the stakeholders to work in a new date for those tasks. I rather that than just saying like, no, like I will do it tomorrow, because I don't work like that, because maybe tomorrow they are not going to be done. So I'd rather having a meeting with the responsibles and stakeholders and fix a new date for those tasks.
All right. But how did you learn this?
I'm sorry?
How did you learn this?
Well, in my work experience, but of course, like the tasks that are urgent and need to be delivered needs to be done first.
Okay. Can you tell me a story where this actually didn't work?
Where this didn't work?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think so, because it always worked. I think
it always works. It works since your birth.
Yeah, I think like if you give priority to the task and you do what you need to do first, that shouldn't be a problem.
All right.
We cannot buy more time, no?
All right. Sounds interesting. Full stop. Okay, let's pull a break and then we come back to some nuances of this interaction. You're laughing already because you know that I tricked you. Let's start the poll again. Then, dear friends, please answer what's your opinion about the answer that Julio provided. And of course, if you have some thoughts to share about this latest interaction, then let us know in the chat. And if you have any questions, please use the Q&A. So you can do so many things today. You can poll, you can comment, you can Q&A us, you can mute us. You can do so many things. So Julio, back to you. What's your self-assessment of this short sequence?
What is mine?
Assessment, your judgment, your feedback about yourself.
Well, I think this is actually a good answer, or again, an honest answer, because this is how I really manage my work. Like everything should have a priority, and I mean what needs to be done first, and well, of course, I try to always deliver on time all the tasks. But yeah, like I don't think there is a way around that.
Could you imagine why the recruiter triggered the second question?
Yeah, maybe. Well, we are already, like, they are already testing me for a stressful situation. So yeah, I suppose that goes with the hand of that. But also, like, yeah, maybe to see how I have handled that before, maybe to see if I had like something that have not worked how I expected using this technique.
Okay. Let's pull the break again here, and then we come back into this as soon as possible. Let's have a look at the polls. Very similar to before. 60% say excellent, no comments. So you sold that thing. And 35% say could do better. I think we have 1 or 2 comments in the chat. Let's have a look at those. And then 5% says much could be improved. So people, if you have feedback about this, please share it with us. Otherwise, we're going to have a look at the chat right now. So Julio, let's have a look at the chat, and then we come back to our...
I can see Oludayo is saying that maybe could be added that it's going to be as soon as possible. Yeah, like you could always say that, I think. As an employee, of course, you want to have like everyone happy, saying, yeah, I will have it as soon as possible. But that as soon as possible, I think that always need to have like a date, because like for me...
Okay, so I stop you there. Would you take the feedback of Oludayo or not?
No.
No. Okay, fair enough. So we don't debate. We take the feedback or not. So the second one is Julio is better than me, that's for sure. The last question is possibly show a learning experience. Interesting part. Maybe we come back to it later. Is there anything else in the chat that we forgot? Muhammad is asking, what is the scope of web development in the future? Okay, maybe you can specify a little bit. Okay, let's go back to where we were standing before. So people, if you want to comment during our conversation, please be our guests. So I asked you what would be the reason for the recruiter to trigger the second question, and you said, interestingly, you said maybe they want to see if I got it right. It's a stressful situation where they're testing me. Yeah, okay, and then probably that's a lot of truth in that. But let's go back to the idea that there is an intention behind the questions that most of the times people don't offer you on the silver tablet when you're having the interview. As I started to note down your answer, I had ASAP the feeling that I could copy paste this answer into a workbook or subject matter book about using Trello. So it's kind of the perfect answer. So you say how you prioritize, you know how to use items, you mention the tool, you know as well how to approach different situations with stakeholders that are having older tasks. So the message is very clear. So what I would take away in that situation as a recruiter is like that you put a lot more value on reliability rather than on finding the communication right away. So it's not about being fast in communicating, but it's about being reliable. If I can deliver it tomorrow, then I'm for sure not gonna promise to you that I'm going to deliver tomorrow. And I think that could be useful for further interviews, again, 25 years from now. If they trigger a question about what happened in the past, then either they want to know a learning experience, I think it's a good point of the colleague out there, or they are lacking the visualization of how you do it and a concrete case about how this has been done in practice, because they want to compare. They're curious to see if this perfect theory applies at their company. That's their stake in the interview. They are scared up to a certain extent. They're scared, or they are at least thrilled to compare situation and make an assessment and make an evaluation of, okay, if I hire this guy, is he going to do fine in our company, or the description he gives is something for somebody else, or it probably is just smoke, So when they trigger this, normally there is something behind, like, I want to know more, give me more depth, I want to believe you. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe, trying to get something else, like more.
What would be an episode of you using Trello as a master, or using Trello, failing and then recovering? Is there anything like this in your memory?
No, I don't think so.
But if you use Trello regularly, there must be something happening that sometimes doesn't go according to plan, or it's always clean.
Yeah, there are situations where where it doesn't work. But as I said, when it's not working, of course, you talk to the people that is also responsible for that part of the project. So
right.
You can readjust.
So if you say that you're always successful, you can at least admit that you have some situation where you perceive risk.
Yeah.
Sometimes we come back to the same topic about risk. It's like a keyword of this interview. Okay, but if you have this, then share it with them. Give them the dirty stuff. Even if eventually you end up with a perfect project, then you can share with them parts of the navigation where you were like, oh, now it's getting a little bit tricky. Do you want to try it again?
Okay, we can try it again.
Okay, give me only the dirty situation. So I'm the recruiter. I'm asking you, what was the question? How do you manage a stressful situation? And you go like, oh, you know what? I have Trello. Everything is under control. I have it 24 hours, 7 in front of my eyes. I have a wearable with Trello. Everything is under control. Full stop. And then comes the story of you trembling for something.
Okay. So what I will do is prioritize the task. Usually I use Trello for that, where I prioritize my task, where they all have like a value, what needs to be done first and later. But actually, I have had situations where that doesn't work like that, because we're not in an ideal world. And when that happens, I usually contact the stakeholders, the responsibles of those tasks, to involve them, to let them know that we have a lacking of time and that we need to work in new dates.
Okay. Sound a little bit more reality related. What if you start to give some names to these people and to these situations?
Like,
don't be realistic now, because of course it's not public bashing here, but try to create a fiction where you use some personal names.
Okay, like, you mean like I will talk to Alessandro and Carlos, something like that?
Yeah, something like this, something that really happened.
Okay, something that really happened.
Or that's very similar to something that happened. You want to share with them, honestly, as you said, your insights.
Yeah, like, for example, in my last experience, we were trying to work in this new feature of storing the images in Amazon. And Amazon has a really extended documentation where you can easily get lost there. So the things were not done by the days they need to be delivered. So we had to make some readjustments there. We had to postpone the date of the new feature to be delivered, and work on that.
All right. Let's pull the break here. Let's have a look at chat and polls. And no, wait a second, Jakub. Let's not do the poll now. let's not do the poll now. Right? Okay. So are you happy with the latest version of the answer?
Yeah, not that much. Maybe I could have gone like more in detail.
Okay. So let's move to something a little bit more related to the role. And let's have a look at the classical question that I'm going to ask to you.
Okay.
So tell me about the project that you screwed up. And please tell me about the project that screwed up in your last job. You can go into technical details as much as you want.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1, go.
In my last experience, yeah, I think that this is something that has happened to almost every developer, and is to push like wrong code to production. Yeah, we were working in this new feature. Well, first of all, the product is a currency exchange web page between countries in South America to send money between Chile, Colombia, Panama. And yeah, they have also features to control the amount of money that they have in every account, to have the control of what is incomes in the day and what is leaving the accounts and everything. Well, I was working on that, and I pushed some code to production, and well, immediately after, I don't know, some minutes, I realized that the amounts were changing like really strange. And of course, I immediately realized that was for the push of the code I made. And I think the key there was to say immediately, like there is no time for hiding the reality. I mean, I screwed up, and I needed to say immediately, like, hey, this happened. I pushed some wrong code. We need to make a rollback immediately to the last working version. And that's what we did. But I mean, that part was easy to do the rollback to the last working version, because that usually have most of the hostings. The problem was with the database. The database had already errors that we needed to work on that to repair. But yeah, that took some time. But what I will rescue from this situation will be that after that, we work in a testing environment that was also live parallel to the production environment, where we will push all the changes to this test environment and test like real user testing, clicking, and see that everything was working perfectly. And just only if everything was perfect, pushing those changes to production. So
okay,
we implement that.
Could you give me an overview on the technologies that you're using, database, environment, language, everything that's technical? And could you give me as well an overview about the process of production and where so that I can identify where the mistake happened?
Yeah. Well, in that moment, I was working in the front end with React. Well, of course, like, with JavaScript, it's very easy to make this kind of mistakes because it's not a typed language. So yeah, there was an error with like adding strings with numbers. So yeah, that's when that happened in the front end, those changes or those counts go to the database. The database was a PostgreSQL database. And I mean, a lot of people are using that internally. So a lot of register went into the database that we were using. And yeah, it was easy because the website was hosted in Heroku, and they have an easy function to roll back to the last working version.
All right. Let's pull the break here and let's have a poll now.
Perfect.
Thank you first for the answer. And let's have a look at the chat if anybody is commenting on this. Okay, let's give them some time. How happy are you with the drive so far on this one?
Yeah, I think with this one I'm really happy because that is something that that really happened. And there, like, I showed the problem and also how to solve it, like how I approach the situation, but also like the result of that, like that we work on a testing environment that was then there and that we were using later for those kind of situations to not happen anymore.
All right. As we were talking some weeks ago about this case, you were telling to me that the interviewer pointed out that he wanted or she wanted an example from your last job, and we were a little bit puzzled to understand the intention of these questions or why the last job. So let's make a point here. Let's have a look at the poll, and then we can back onto this soon. So 70% say excellent, no comments, and 30% could do better. If you want to share with us your thoughts, then please let us know.
Yeah.
So what would be your idea why somebody wants to nail you on your last job? Is there anything that went through your mind as you got that question?
Yeah, like I think the specific when they made a specific of your last job, I think it's because a lot of people are prepared for this kind of question. Like they have already like a fixed answer of a situation where I did wrong. But yeah, that was kind of to avoid those prepared answers and to say or to ask you something very specific. So you have to think about the answer.
Okay, did it work for you?
Yeah, I would say yes, because I had another situation in mind, prepared. And yeah, this was kind of, okay, now I need to think about something in my last job. And well, that was a good situation, so it was not that difficult. But yeah, sometimes that could be tricky.
Okay. Well, thank you so far. Maybe a question following up on this and trying to understand a little bit the point of view of the interviewer. You've been through this process and it's been successful, and you've been through this process a couple of times. Do you want to share with the audience some very peculiar questions that you got asked, very tricky questions that you got asked that put you with your back on the wall a little bit, and where you were thinking a lot what to answer as a junior developer? Is it something that you want to share with the audience about how to manage these situations, and especially for the developer role? I'm trying to address the comment of Zoran.
Yeah. For example, they asked me about what was a project, the project that I'm like most proud of, and what make it succeed. I have to say, like the question of the disadvantage of working there was a really tricky one. But yeah, like to a junior developer, like I think that we are addressing already questions of a real interview. Like, I mean, I have had very technical questions, but that's like very technical. Like, I mean, about knowledge, about what do you know about, for example, how will you center a little square in the middle of the page with CSS, for example.
Okay, that sounds very technical. What would be the answer in short for you?
Yeah, for me, using Flexbox, like First of all, I will use a div to give it 100 of the view height and the view width, and then that div I will put a display flex, and then I will put a justify content center, align item center, and I will put a div inside, and that will be exactly in the middle, for example.
All right.
Yeah, like of those questions, there is a lot, but I think that's more like something very technical, that if you know it, you will answer it, and if you don't know it, you cannot answer it. But I think that these more behavioral questions are more difficult to answer, because there is no wrong answer.
Yeah, there is a lot of right answers, but a lot of wrong answers as well. Yeah, so what I would take away from you if I were about to start a career in development is like you can study a lot for preparation, and on the subject matter you would be prepared or not. It's kind of maths. Either you know it or you don't know it. And then there is a number of questions that we address today, which are a little bit the gray zone. It's about the question of trust. It's about the question of if you fit the company, to understand the motivation of the candidate. And these, of course, are not be part of a technical preparation, because there are multiple answers and you can score the job even if you do something completely customized for you. So let's have a look at the chat shortly. I want to see what's going on there. Which type of projects did the junior developer would develop? As that, please, can you paste it into the Q&A section that we're going to address very soon? So then we get the right space to address that question. What if they ask, what would you do if you could not solve a problem by your project? I think for this we need some time. I think we kind of addressed that. It was like a project that didn't go well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Julio. Do you have the feeling that we kind of covered that?
No, I don't think so.
We didn't?
No.
Okay, what would you do if you could not solve a problem by your project? So I would interpret the question like the project is a complex flow of tasks. What would be if one of these tasks or more of these tasks are not solved? So you can't solve a problem within this bucket of things to do.
Yeah. Well, as a developer, of course, depending on the problem, no. For example, my first thought will be to read the documentation. Like, the documentation saves a lot of time, should be your best friend. Usually for us as developers, it's maybe easier to watch a tutorial, because I mean, you're watching a video, someone is explaining, it's fun, it's easier. But I think like the documentation is really underrated, like, and it saves a lot of time. You should read the documentation. And of course, like, if you cannot solve the problem, it's because maybe you're using the wrong tool for that. Maybe you need to think about another tool that could solve the problem maybe easier or something. Yeah, that's at least how I will approach that situation.
Well, the question is very generic, so we don't know what kind of task and what kind of problems are not being solved. But this could be behavioral as well. So it's definitely a behavioral question. You have to look back and try to find an episode that addresses a similar situation, so that they have an insight in what you did. And referring to a comment of before, give them an insight into how you learn and what you learned in the past. So this is essential for addressing behavioral questions, right? Julio, are you ready to go into Q&A? Because I think we are kind of done here, and we have a couple of questions waiting in the queue. Is there any topic or question you want to address right now?
Yeah, well, let's read the Q&A.
Okay.
Which type of projects the junior developer will develop?
Wait a second. I think here we need some guidance by Jakob if he wants to show. Otherwise, we can go ahead like this. Yeah, here he is.
Good. I think Julio is doing a great job, but yeah, I'm here. So let me repeat the question that Julio just read out. Which types of projects will the junior developer develop?
Yeah, that's well, it's kind of confusing, but I mean, yeah, in the internet there is a lot of projects that a junior developer could work on, like, for example, a calculator. Depending on the language that you're learning, they usually have tutorials to a first start with that language. So yeah, in internet there is a lot of information about news, very easy projects to start that could help you a lot to learn about the language.
Right. Can I ask a question to see if I got it right? As somebody who doesn't develop, is kind of the job scope of the junior developer is something based on some smaller features of bigger products? So it's something that we can imagine like this, or how would you frame the idea of the work of a junior developer? What can people expect when they enter a career in tech and they want to develop? What's the first entry level in the ladder?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, for example, as a web developer, if you ask me right now, I think I started the wrong way, but you need to start from the very basics. So, of course, learning HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript, and of course, then starting with very very easy projects to start understanding the language.
All right. People, please drop further questions in the Q&A if you need it. Otherwise, because I've seen the second one, Jakob, and I think we kind of addressed that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually quite interesting. Could you give us some examples of technical questions a junior developer could expect in an interview?
Yeah, I think that we already addressed that one. And as I said, there is, of course, there is different kind of interviews. Some of them are very technical. And as I said, the technical questions are kind of easy because whether you know the answer or you don't know it. So there are a lot of technical questions like, for example, let's say React. Do you know about hooks? Explain me, for example, how to use the use effect hook, or, for example, explain me how Redux works, or how can you center a div in CSS, or something like that. There's a lot of technical questions for a junior developer. But as I said, I think that is more important to focus in this kind of behavioral questions that where there is not just one right answer, because I feel they are more tricky to answer than just technical questions.
And you interviewed quite a few times, got a job offer. Did you come across a whiteboard challenge during any of the interviews?
The challenge of that they send you, the code
or that, yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, like, I mean, again, depending on the company. Like, sometimes I feel like there are companies that have some very big coding challenge. Like, for example, I have gotten, like, please do a Instagram clone, and they give you like all the specifications that they want to see, and the time that you have to do it. Like, for example, for this interview that I talk about, I got a challenge to do like a vocabulary trainer where you need to insert the translation of a word, and this will tell you if it's right or if it's wrong. For example, I got another challenge to show cards with GitHub links. like to, depending on the information that the user will put in a form with an user in a online repository in GitHub, then this app will create a link, which, for example, I can send to a friend, and that person will click the link and will get a card with the information of the repository, for example. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges out there.
Great, thank you. So here we have another question for you. What was your first or one of the first task at your first job as a junior developer?
Wow, yeah, that's the first task was to develop a complete website. Because I landed this company, we were just, this was a really small company, or this is a really small company. We were just 2 developers. And yeah, the task was to develop the entire website. And I was involved in the whole development cycle, from designing the whole user flow experience, and also I had a vote in how the app will look until developing. Like, yeah, that will depend in the company. Like, for example, you could get a job in a company where the company is really big and they have maybe a big onboarding process where they prepare you and everything, and after that you get like little tasks to do and all that. Or could be like me, that, for example, started with a complete website.
Wow. Hey, there are a couple of points that are really valid in the Q&A, even if we have to have a look at the time, Jakub. But I think I have following feeling that I want to share with everybody. While we do this show for UX people, there are less questions about the scope of the job. And I'm kind of interested into this kind of curiosity. It sounds like that the scope of the job for a junior developer is not that clear for people interested in entering this career. And maybe it's an interesting topic for a further webinar for you, Julio. Mm-hmm. And then there are a couple of questions that relate more on the possibility of landing a job after a boot camp, so which is the principle where CareerFoundry based upon. So the answer is clearly yes, not only for UX and UI, but even for development and for data. I would like to make a point that I always make. The years of experience that you see advertised on job ads are most of the times a wish list or a very subjective perception of somebody who is looking for personnel. So the whole point of getting a job after the bootcamp, but even in general, is to understand the problem of the client. So understand the problem, in this case, the development problems of the organizations that you're applying at. If you manage to do this during your preparation, during your hiring process, and showcase your skill applied in a similar setting of the company, then this thing of the 3, 4, 5 years of experience suddenly vanishes. It's not that important. They want to know that if they hire you, even if as a junior developer, you are going to solve certain kinds of problems. So you're an expert, meaning that you bring some expertise and you solve certain kind of problems. That's quite easy, and it applies across the board on the jobs of CareerFoundry. So it's valid for UI, UX, data, and development as well.
I can add something here related to that question, and it's completely yes. I got an interview and I got an offer from a job for a junior developer, and that process was 2 interviews, one with normal behavioral questions, and the second one was just technical questions. That I will say that all of them, or most of them, are in the curriculum of CareerFoundry, for example. So, yeah, the answer is yes, you can land a job as a junior.
Fantastic. I don't see any more questions. So once again, Thank you, Alessandro. Thank you, Julio, for volunteering and being brave to answer all these questions. I know this is very nerve-wracking. And thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions about the career support we offer and how all these bootcamp graduates actually get jobs, then please schedule a call with one of our program advisors, and they will be very, very happy to speak to you about it. And with that, I wish you good evening, good morning, wherever you're based, and see you next time. Thanks.
See you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.